Good morning to you, and thank you very much, Dean Williford, for the opportunity to be here today. I'm honored, and on behalf of our Texas Baptist family, greetings to you. We have 5,450 churches that form the BGCT, and together, collectively, we're doing our best to touch the state of Texas with the gospel and the good news of Jesus Christ. And thank you, Logsdon Seminary and Hardin-Simmons University, for being a strategic part of our Texas Baptist family. We love this university, we love this particular seminary and institution, and are grateful that we are on the same team, and thank you very much for all of that. And thank you for the chance to be able to share with you in just a few minutes today. You'll be relieved to know that one of my spiritual gifts is brevity. So, the ministry has never been easy. And I think an argument probably could be made that it's more challenging or difficult today than it's ever been. So when I was informed by Dr. Ellis that your theme for this fall semester chapel experience was a combination of humility and courage, I was encouraged by that. One of my unique privileges is to be in a different church somewhere in Texas every Sunday, and it's different every Sunday. Everybody seems to think church is like what they have it on Sundays, and it's not that way at all. It's different everywhere. But it seems like when I go to a church, when I find that pastor, that minister, who's got a healthy balance of humility and courage, then I found a healthy church and a healthy ministry. So what I want to do today is kind of, I hate to say, give my little spin on that. That probably doesn't sound very scriptural or spiritual even, but that's what I'm going to do. So, but a verse came to mind that I just want to read to you. You know it, but let me share this with you, and then just a couple of thoughts about that. Ephesians 4, verse 1, Paul says, Therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, entreat you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling with which you have been called. Then he goes on to describe all that, but that whole phrase, in a manner worthy of which you have been called. So to me, humility and courage all come into play right there, and I've got two thoughts on that, and so bear with these and a couple of stories that I think go along with that. So when I see a healthy minister engaged in a healthy ministry, I think there is that healthy combination of humility and courage. It leads me to say there's somebody who understands it's not all about them. In church, it's not all about us. The first church I ever had a chance to pastor was the First Baptist Church of Blum, Texas. 357 people lived in Blum. Still do. I think there are different 357, but that's the limit on the population. That's because the sign says, and so they keep it at that. So when I was 24 years old when I was their pastor, and it wasn't that I didn't know anything. Dr. Williford, I didn't even suspect anything. So what I didn't know was that as a pastor, I didn't know I shouldn't bring a recommendation of my own to the church. I didn't know I needed to, take that through a committee and then to the deacons and then to the business meeting. I didn't know. So I'd been there about 6 months. I should tell you also I was the secretary and the custodian, and I did the yard. And really, doing the yard was my best work. So as the secretary, it was my responsibility to print out the Sunday bulletin, and we cannot have church without the Sunday bulletin. So in order to keep church going, I had to print out the bulletin. And some of you will not even know what I'm about to talk about here, but you can Google this and search this. But we had a mimeograph machine. Now, for some of you, you're going, how old is that man? But it was a strange contraption. It had a crank on it and a wheel and some purple paper but it printed out kind of purple pages. So I worked the mimeograph machine, but I thought, this church, we need a copy machine. And so I did my research, and then one night in business meeting, we went through all of our business. It didn't take long. There were 17 of us there. So at the end of the business meeting, when it came to that point where, any other business, I was bold enough to say, well, I have a recommendation. Now, you could have heard it pretty quiet in there at the pastor with his own recommendation. But I said, I would like to recommend that we buy a copy machine, and it's going to cost us $400. I had a picture of it. So, a man raised his hand, and he said, he was the chairman of the pastor search committee that had called me, so you know how that works. He said, I have an alternative recommendation. Now, I'll never forget this because it had 3 parts to it. He said, first of all, I would like to recommend that we hook up an electric motor to the mimeograph machine. Then I recommend that we get a large wheel of paper and hook that up to the other end of the mimeograph machine. And then 3, I recommend that we give the pastor a sharp knife so that when the motor turns the wheel, he can just slice off those pages just like that. I don't know how that was going to be engineered, but nonetheless, we had competing recommendations on the floor of the business meeting, his and mine. So we voted 16-1 to buy a copy machine. That all went well. But Thursday morning came. So I'm in the little office there at the church, and I get that knock on the door, and I open the door, and there's this man. He walked in, he sat across the desk from me, and I was kind of prepared. I thought, oh, here it comes. And here it came, but not like I expected. Because he pushed across my little desk a personal check for $400 to buy the copy machine. And I learned when I was 24 years old, this is a man I can count on because this man knows it's not about him. It was about us. So it doesn't matter if you're a member of a church or if you're leading the church. For me, if you want to have a healthy balance of humility and courage, just never lose sight of the fact that it's not about you. But then, at the same time, never lose sight of the fact that it is about you. Is that possible? It is about me. It is about me living a life here that God can use. It's about me living a life here that's worthy of this calling that I received when I was 10 years old. I don't know when you were called to the ministry, but I have a very distinct memory of God calling me out when I was 10. But a healthy pastor, a healthy staff member, a healthy minister in whatever capacity that might be is someone that's going to always keep in mind, this ministry is not about me, but this minister is about me, and it's about me being the man and the woman that God can use and that God can honor. It's just about guarding your heart and your mind and being careful with that heart and with that mind. I'll tell you another quick story. Something about building and maintaining a reputation that in that field of service that God can use. I was the pastor. These people deserve this story, so I'll call out their name. First Baptist Church of Weatherford, Oklahoma. I'd been the pastor there about 7 days. My picture had been on the front page of the Weatherford, Oklahoma newspaper. First Baptist Church calls new pastor. So 7 days in, there's a knock on my door at home one night, and it was 2 high school boys. And they said, "Hey, Pastor, we just want to get to know you, and can we take you out to the Sonic?" Well, that's pretty cool. High school boys wanted to come by and get to know me, the pastor. I said, "Well, sure." I tell Kathleen, I said, "I'm going to go out with these guys." And so we went to the Sonic, and of course I had to buy. But, so we go to the Sonic, and I'd only been in town a week, and even though it was a relatively small town, about 10,000 people, I didn't know my way around, so I didn't know, I couldn't have gotten to the Sonic back to my house. And so when we left the city limits, I really didn't know where we were. I was sitting in the back seat, just trying to be cool and get along with the high school guys. So we out in the country now, and all of a sudden the car stops. And so they turn around and look at me, and that's when I heard a question I never thought I would hear as a pastor. They turned around and looked at me and said, "Hey, preacher, you want to steal some watermelons with us?" So, what's my answer to that? Yeah. No, I said, no. My picture had been on the front page of the paper. So I would start sweating already, and my picture's going to be on the paper again. So I said, no, I probably need to get back home. Well, they're undeterred. They open the car doors. They get out. They kind of start walking. Apparently, we had pulled up next to a watermelon patch in western Oklahoma. So I stay in the car. That is my one defense. I stayed in the car. So they get out there, and they're kicking around trying to find the right one. And all of a sudden, I see some headlights come on the far back of the field. And I just kind of sink down in the back. Oh, no. And then I hear that sound that you never forget if you've ever heard it, but it's a sound no pastor ever wants to hear. I heard a shotgun. So this boom, boom, and these lights start coming toward us. That's when I say to these high school students something I thought I would never say as a pastor. That's when I said, "What if we're going to steal them? Let's get them and go." So they come struggling back to the car, and about that time this pickup just screeches up right beside us, and I just go, "Oh, no." And I look in the back of the truck, and it's all the deacons of the church. I've been set up. It was their sons that had come to pick me up. All that to say, it was about me, because I was worried about my picture being on the paper again and my reputation in that community. I know there's a couple of little stories and examples, but if I want to live a life worthy of the calling that I received when I was 10 years old, and I'm going to engage in ministry out there in the local church or somewhere else, even though it seems to contradict, I think they fit together. A healthy balance of humility and courage equates in my mind a healthy balance of an understanding. This is not about me. It's about this calling I have and these people I serve. But at the same time, it is about me and me living a life that God can use in this place where He's placed me. You see, when you've got arrogance and pridefulness, it leads you to do whatever you want to do. When you're afraid or you're fearful, you end up not doing anything because you're afraid to do the wrong thing. But if you have that healthy balance, it's not about me. But yes, it is. You just tend to do the right thing in the right way for the right reason. And God tends to honor that. Thank you for the time, Dr. Williford.